General Mark Milley, the top commander of the U.S. military, said in a visit to Syria that the U.S. troops and their Kurdish Syrian partners were making progress against the Islamic State. We have with us Joel Rayburn tonight, director of the American Center for Levant Studies and former U.S. Special Envoy to Syria. Thank you very much for talking to us. Would you say, is this a success after 8 years of fighting over there in northern Syria?
I think so far that's true. What you're dealing with the ISIS threat is one that the minute that you release the pressure on a group like ISIS, it will begin to reconstitute itself and first form a local threat, but then as soon as it can take over territory or begin to move freely, it will start to organize international terrorist operations. So this is something that's a long-term campaign. It's going to have to be sustained. That's true not just in Syria, but also in Iraq. That's one of the reasons that makes it so difficult, is that it's a threat that spans countries.
And it's obviously getting more complicated every time something else is going on there. And the question is, does the U.S. need some fresh thinking? I don't want to get into Iraq saga, but you know what I mean, fresh thinking after 8 years.
Well, I don't think the U.S. needs necessarily fresh thinking, because the issues that we're dealing with are very well known. The reason that ISIS is able to resurge is not just a matter of security and security pressure. It's because a group like ISIS or a group like Al-Qaeda or other affiliated groups like that, they draw their strength from a political conflict. That's what gives them the oxygen to breathe. That's why even if you think you've decapitated them in a security sense, if you don't resolve the political conflicts that they exploit in order to get support and divide communities, then they'll have the opportunity to come right back. That's been the phenomenon in Iraq over and over and over again. In Syria, of course, you have the very deep conflict that's going on with Bashar al-Assad waging war against a large part of the population. And that's something that ISIS and Al-Qaeda have been able to thrive upon.
Is there a serious danger that ISIS will ever come back?
There's always a danger, because as I say, it's not that ISIS has an independent appeal much anymore, I think, or, an ideological appeal. It's that there are these vast, raging political conflicts between the Assad regime and a large part of the Syrian population, between sectarian militias and parties associated with them, and a large part of Iraqi society. So there are deeply sectarian political conflicts. That's the kind of thing where even a group like ISIS is able to go to a besieged community, let's say, communities that Assad and the Russians and the Iranians are bombarding in Syria, and offer themselves as protectors. And desperate people will have no other choice, or at least we'll see the Assad regime, the Iranians and Russians, as a bigger threat and a nearer-term threat. So, yeah, ISIS can come back until you solve the political problems, the political conflicts that drive the military conflict, which we're not doing.
Joel Rayburn, I thank you very much.
Okay, my pleasure.